Good evening or afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me once again for the Monday headlines and news from around the globe. It's been a couple of weeks since I've done one. As many of you who follow me know, I was taking a bit of a vacation, spending some time with family, as many of you were. In any case, I have some interesting headlines today. Nothing really earth-shattering. There's nothing out there that would really rock the boat or make me say, the end of the world. But there are a few things we do need to understand because these things could affect our supply chain, inflation, stuff like that. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, please feel free to make a comment below if I don't make my own premiere, which does happen. So, this is from a few days ago. The U.S. is suspending freight train crossings at 2 Texas checkpoints after videos show a flood of illegal migrants. Now, as of right now, some have been reopened, some have not, and they added a few places to the list. The problem is the United States is basically unable to control its southern border or unwilling to do so. Now, there's speculation as to whether they want to change the demographic, get more voters, whatever the case may be. The problem is allowing this many folks undocumented and improperly processed into the country can introduce a lot of danger. Let's think of it this way. If 30,000 migrants come through the border in 1 month and say 500 of them are bad players, that's roughly 3 or 4 companies worth of bad players. The amount of damage they could do would be phenomenal if they were well trained. So, speaking of damage done by people infiltrating, we all know what happened in Israel on October 7th of 2023. According to The Guardian, the Middle East crisis, Israel says it has completed its mission to destroy the Hamas infrastructure in northern Gaza. Now, that may be partly they're under pressure to stand down a little bit and put a ceasefire. So this could be for public consumption of their own people saying, hey, we've accomplished our mission. Now we can stop bombing the crap out of everything. On the flip side, they may well have completed their mission. We've all seen the explosives and the artillery used to destroy large swaths of northern Gaza to destroy the Hamas tunnels and infrastructure. Regardless, Israel did suffer some casualties, nowhere near what Hamas did. But that war will continue, but Israel is saying that they feel that they have accomplished the mission of destroying the tunnels, supply chain, equipment, and everything else they had hoped to make themselves safer. This does not preclude them going further south. But right now, this is a good sign that they may simply stop operations or modify operations for more specific targets. As of tonight, which would be the 7th of January 2024, there are thousands without power in Massachusetts. There's a phenomenal winter storm going across the northern states, essentially going from west to east in all the states north of Arizona. Actually, Arizona and New Mexico are getting pretty heavy snow. Flagstaff, Albuquerque, and Santa Fe as of tonight. Upwards of 18 inches falling within the course of an evening, not even overnight, like in the course of the evening. This is the kind of stuff we need to prepare for as everyday preparedness, folks. Check your weather forecast before you travel. Ironically, I traveled to those areas, Flagstaff, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, over the last couple of weeks. I've put in a lot of mileage, and one of my my deciding factors on when to leave or when to go is the weather. So pay attention to that. Don't get caught in a bad blizzard in the middle of nowhere. Not a good thing. So the Motley Fool says Social Security has an immigration problem. Now the spin of their article is that we don't have enough legal immigration. So let me try and explain this very quickly. Their statement is Social Security is not being managed correctly. We have a lot of what is called the baby boomers retiring. It's going to put a lot of burden on the system. It may become difficult to fund things the way they want to. Normally, you have new workers by birth within the country, but the birth rate in the US is declining, so immigration fills the gap. The problem is a lot of the immigrants are not legal or not being processed correctly, so they're not able to contribute. So they're proposing that they need to fix that problem, get people in here legally, younger workers who can then help fund the retirement program, but at the same time they can contribute to taxes and to society. Complicated problem, interesting topic. I'd encourage you to check that out. I wanted to bring this one back. This was from a couple of weeks ago. Chinese hackers infiltrate critical U.S. infrastructure. A lot of us were expecting something might happen either in protest of the Palestine-Hamas situation or in some other aspect. This is always going to be a lingering threat. Hackers, whether it's a Chinese military hacker or a bunch of really stoned kids in Norway or the Philippines get into a server and cause a bunch of mayhem. You need to be able to get around that. Again, being prepared is about being able to have options, being able to maneuver in a bad situation. So that being said, keep in mind you want to have some cash. You want to print out your bank and other statements monthly if you can. Some folks do it weekly, that's a bit much, but monthly at least. Make sure you have cash on hand. Take the steps in the event power and the grid goes down, the internet goes down, you can at least function. Speaking of, changes in the economy, there's been a lithium discovery in the western U.S. that they're starting to think is rather massive. Now, up until recently, certain countries like Russia and China and Afghanistan had kind of a monopoly on this kind of mineral or this metal. Now, if indeed this finding, this discovery is as big as they think, that could really change the dynamic. It could actually make the U.S. a leader in creating batteries and other content, or other products. And China and Russia won't have as much leverage on the world because we will. So we'll see how this plays out. I need to do a little more research on it. I would encourage you to go investigate yourselves and see how this may affect you. Now, over in Canada, and this is not to be political per se, even though you guys know I can be, Canadian police seen delivering coffee to pro-Palestinian protesters. I don't know the context of the video. I don't know if this cop knew the protester and is like, hey, I bought you a coffee because I owed you one 2 weeks ago. We don't know. The bottom line is, law enforcement officers, whether you are a liberal or a conservative, a Democrat or Republican, left or right, whatever you define yourself as politically, police need to toe the line, and especially when they're in uniform, do not appear to favor one side or another. This kind of gave the perception that the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine protests are favorable to the law enforcement, but it also gave a feeling that they don't really care what happens to the Jewish communities. So this is dangerous behavior. Not that it's going to hurt someone, but it may embolden people, and it gives the wrong impression. It makes police work harder when people think you're against them. So again, not a good play on their part. So Saudi company gets kicked out of the U.S. They were growing alfalfa here in the States. Now, alfalfa growing is banned in Saudi Arabia and most of the Middle East because of the quantity of water it takes. So the Saudis bought farmland here, and we've heard this before, and we're using American water to grow the alfalfa to then export it to Saudi Arabia. But they had a permit. There was a limitation on what they could or couldn't do, and they exceeded it. They finally got busted. They'd been warned. They got busted, and the Congress people on both parties in these states involved, I think Arizona was one of them, basically told them, yeah, you can't operate here anymore. So they lost their permits. They're probably going to have to shut the doors. I don't know if that's going to affect a bunch of employment, but I do know that we need more of our government protecting our resources from other countries buying them up, and our farmland and all that. So possibly a good move there. So the Dow Jones ended a little bit squirrely this first week of the year. S&P took a bit of a hit as well. Does this mean the market's crashing? No, it doesn't. Now, it does mean that inflation will be sticky. It does mean that we cannot sit here and get complacent in thinking, oh, the market's going to get better, we're going to have a bull market, it's going to go up. It may not. When it comes to financial things, and again, I'm no financial analyst, I'm an engineer who tries to pay attention to this stuff. Make sure you diversify appropriately. Have some money, have some cash, have some silver, have some jewelry. If you do invest, split it up between bonds, stocks of different types. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Essentially, that can expose you to a lot of risk. And you really don't want to have to deal with risk. Speaking of causing problems, Congress strikes a 10th hour deal on 2024 spending. Again, we don't know what the government's going to do. Part of the reason the previous article about the market being squirrely was so relevant to this one is that the market doesn't know if the Fed's going to increase interest rates, decrease. Is inflation truly going down? Are we just seeing spotty inflation changes? Is unemployment real? Are we getting the real numbers? And because there's so much vagueness in what's being reported to the business and to the public, business community and the public, nobody really knows what to do. So there's a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of instability. Folks are not comfortable with the financial market. So again, this just reinforces the fact that the government is in debt, our nation is in debt, and we want to make sure that you personally make the best decisions for your family and your loved ones. Speaking of insecurity, why food security is a top priority in China. This comes from The Diplomat. China is having a hell of a time. The Yellow River and a few other rivers flooded very badly last year, and it resulted in a lot of damaged crops. They're having to import more. China's birth rate is cratering right now. I don't know if you guys knew this, but it is collapsing. It is not good, partly because of Chairman Mao's, back in the 60s, philosophy of having more men than women, because if he had to fight a war, he'd send a bunch of men. He had enough soldiers. That never happened. Hence, they had a disproportionate population. It was like 4-to-1 male to female. But right now they have this massive population. It's getting older, and they can't make food the way they used to. They're having issues. So watch for some food inflation going into 2024. Nothing to freak out about, but just be aware of that kind of stuff. I'm going to do this one more time as everyone winds down their travel for the holidays and we start traveling for business or other reasons. Remember, if you can carry everything on the plane, it is infinitely better than checking it in luggage because it's with you. They stop the plane. You don't have to worry if your luggage is going to make it to the new plane. It's with you. Make sure you have an EDC of some type, if minimum a first aid kit and a flashlight. You can't bring knives. Also, make sure you have anything you want to bring that's an EDC that you cannot carry into the plane. Make sure it's in your checked luggage. And when you're returning, don't do what I did and leave your knife in the carry-on. Put it in your checked luggage. It's fine in there. If you do travel with a firearm, you have to declare it, and there's a form to fill out. When you're going through airports, train stations, bus stations, arrive early, even if it means a wait. Trust me, you don't want to be the one. They had a lot of issues in Christmas and New Year's. You don't want to be the one who can't make it. You miss your plane and then you're stuck in a weird airport. Plan for contingencies in case your flight gets canceled. Bring some toiletries, toothbrush, toothpaste, maybe baby wipes for your face. In the event you get stuck in an airport overnight, you can at least freshen up a little bit, have a change of footwear in your check bags, but I would always wear lace shoes wherever you go in an airport in case you gotta run. Another quote from George Orwell today: we sleep safe in our beds because rough men stand ready in the night to visit violence upon those who would do us harm. This is a very true statement. Of course, we also have to keep in mind that those rough men who would protect us may not always make it in time. You need to be prepared to protect yourself, whether it's through defensive things, locking your doors, setting your alarm, etc., or whether it's through more proactive things by removing a threat. Be ready for that. As crime inflation gets worse, we may see more issues in the streets, in crime. Mad Shad and I and All American Prepper will be talking about it later this week, so I encourage you to go check it out. Help is available, ladies and gentlemen, once again, as I always do at these Monday nights. Thousands of minors are trafficked. The amount of trafficking going on right now, I can barely fathom, because we don't control the border, so nobody really knows what's going on. The law enforcement folks here in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico are busting up brothels. They're finding kids, especially young females everywhere, but it's also young males. If you think you're witnessing or seeing some kind of trafficking incident, look for young men or women, especially young females, who are afraid to talk to you. They're being guided by, say, a man or a handler, or even a female that's significantly older and doesn't look related. They may show signs of abuse, burns, bruises. They may be a bit skittish. These are signs of possible trafficking victims. The worst case is you get law enforcement involved, tell them, hey, this is suspicious, have them go check it out. The worst case is it's just a squirrely kid, then that's fine too. But you could save a kid's life. A lot of this is done in the dark. And ironically, the Super Bowl is one of the biggest human sex trafficking occasions in the year in America. The Super Bowl. They will bring young women and young men from all over the country to be sold off. So open your eyes, pay attention. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I appreciate if you do happen to be buying any of the products that I am affiliated with and you'd like to participate and support the channel, feel free to do so. You can get 10% off with ReadyWise. You can get $5 off at Wallaby Mylar. ETA Living, which is a survival bottle, you can get 15% off, 10% off a holster from 1791 Holster Company. I'm also happy to announce that I am now a friend and affiliate of Palmetto State Armory, as well as Cryptek Camouflage. Actually, I met their marketing manager. Turns out he's extended family. So I'm looking forward to showing you guys some of those products. But again, as always, you want to support me, that's fine, but make sure you check the prices and make sure it's in your budget. But ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this week's summary of news and headlines from around the globe. I do appreciate you spending some time with me. My schedule in the coming weeks will be insane. Aside from having my son and his family, including my granddaughter, here at home with us, I will be starting grad school again, another semester, so it's going to be a little crazy. Bear with me, and other than that, guys, be safe, God bless, Godspeed, take care of yourselves out there, and try to keep out of trouble if you can. Help each other out as well. And I will more than likely continue to do those morning live streams when I'm going to and from work, or to and from wherever I'm going at that point in time. I love to use the thumbnails such as boots on the ground or random thoughts. But anyway, come and check me out in the mornings when I can do it. They're never pre-scheduled, they just kind of pop up. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, God bless, Godspeed. We'll see you later.